Have you ever felt like you were giving everything to someone and they still walked away like you never mattered? That question right there. That is the wound millions of people carry every single day. And if you are watching this video, there is a very high chance that wound lives inside you right now. You are in pain. Real pain, the kind that makes your chest feel heavy at 2 a.m., the kind that makes you scroll through old messages at 3 a.m., the kind that makes you replay every moment trying to find the answer to one terrifying question: what did I do wrong? But here is what nobody is telling you. You did not do anything wrong. That might sound impossible to believe right now. Your mind is probably screaming at me, how can it not be my fault? They left, they checked out, they went cold, they acted like I never existed, so how could it not be my fault? Let me tell you something that will change the way you see everything in the next few minutes. When someone walks away from you in a way that feels cruel, cold, and completely unexpected, it almost never has anything to do with who you are. It almost always has everything to do with who they are. And more specifically, it has everything to do with a deep, invisible pattern inside them that makes them incapable of staying when things get real. You are not broken. You are not unworthy. You are not someone who failed at love. You are someone who loved with courage. And that is exactly why this hurts so badly. Because the truth is, you gave them your heart. You gave them your trust. You gave them your time. You made space for them in your life in a way that made them feel safe, seen, and valued. And just when you thought things were getting real, just when you thought you were building something that mattered, they pulled away. And now you are sitting with the aftermath, the silence, the questions that never get answered, the feeling of being left in the dark while they just vanished. This is one of the most psychologically devastating experiences a human being can go through. And I want you to understand something deeply before we go any further. The reason this pain feels so uniquely brutal is not because you lost them. It is because you lost the version of yourself that existed within that relationship. You lost the future you thought you were building. And most painfully, you lost the person you believed yourself to be when you were with them. That is a real loss, and it deserves to be honored. Not pushed away, not ignored, honored. But here is what I also need you to understand. The way you are feeling right now, this juwang, this confusion, this pain, it is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your transformation. In the next 25 to 30 minutes, I am going to walk you through something that will feel almost impossible to believe right now. But by the time we finish, you are going to understand exactly why this happened. You are going to understand the psychological pattern that controls people who leave without explanation. You are going to understand why your pain is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of depth. And most importantly, you are going to understand how to move through this pain in a way that does not just help you survive, it helps you come back stronger, wiser, and more whole than you have ever been before. This is not a video about getting your ex back. This is not a video about pretending the pain does not exist. This is a video about reclaiming your power. This is a video about understanding the truth so that you can finally set yourself free. If you have been hurting, if you have been confused, if you have been wondering why you feel so empty after someone left you, then stay with me until the very end, because what I'm about to share with you is going to change the way you see this entire experience. You are not alone in this, and you are going to be okay. Let me ask you something that might seem simple on the surface, but runs far deeper than you think. When you think about your breakup, what is the one emotion that keeps coming back no matter how hard you try to push it away? For most people who have been through what you have been through, the answer is the same. It is not really anger. It is not really sadness. It is something far more specific. It is the feeling of being incomplete, like a part of you is missing, like you reached for something real and it turned to smoke the moment you tried to hold it. That sensation, that deep aching sense of incompleteness, that is the signature wound of loving someone who could never fully let you in. Here is what makes this pain so uniquely devastating. When a relationship ends in a normal way, there is a narrative. There is a reason. Someone did something wrong, or both people grew in different directions, or life pulled them apart in a way that makes sense. There is a shape to it, a beginning, a middle, and an end. You can look at it and understand it, But when someone with an avoidant attachment style leaves you, you do not get that. You get fragments, half conversations, moments where they were present, and moments where they vanished without warning. You get close enough to taste what real connection could feel like, and then you get nothing. Not because they do not care, but because something inside them cannot handle the depth you are offering them. And that is exactly why you are still in so much pain. Your nervous system is stuck in a loop that psychologists call an unfinished emotional cycle. Your brain and your heart were in the middle of something that never got resolved. There was no closure. There was no final conversation. There was just silence where there should have been answers. And your mind cannot let go of something that never actually ended. This is why you keep checking your phone. This is why you keep wondering if they will reach out. This is why part of you still believes that if you just understood the right thing or said the right words, they would come back and everything would be different. Let me be very clear with you about something. That belief is keeping you trapped. Not because it is wrong to want answers, not because it is wrong to want them to come back, but because holding on to that possibility is stopping you from healing the wound that actually exists inside you. The deepest layer of your pain is not about them. It is about a promise that was never fulfilled. The promise that vulnerability would be met with vulnerability. The promise that when you opened your heart, they would open theirs too. The promise that what you were building together was real. And when that promise was broken, something inside you did not just break. Something inside you fractured in a way that made you question the very nature of love itself. You are not just grieving the person. You are grieving the version of love that you believed in. You are grieving the future you imagined. And most powerfully, you are grieving the part of yourself that felt truly alive when you were with them. Here is what you need to understand about this wound. It is real, it is deep, and it deserves to be treated with the same care and respect that you would give to any serious injury. But there is something else you need to understand even more deeply. This pain is not a sign that you are weak. It is a sign that you are someone who loved with your entire being. It is a sign that you are someone with extraordinary emotional depth. And it is a sign that you have the capacity to feel, to connect, and to give in a way that most people are too scared to experience. The very thing that is hurting you right now is the same thing that will become your greatest strength once you learn how to channel it properly. But we are not there yet. First, you have to understand what you are truly fighting against. You have to understand the psychological architecture of the person who left you. Because once you see it clearly, you will stop blaming yourself and you will start freeing yourself. The wound you are carrying is real, but it is not permanent, and it is not who you are. This is the awakening. This is the moment you stop running from the pain and start understanding it. Because understanding is the first step toward transformation, and transformation is exactly what is waiting for you on the other side of this. There is a question that lives in the back of your mind every single day, and it is eating you alive from the inside. It goes like this: if they cared about me at all, why did they leave so easily? If what we had was real, why did they act like it never happened? If I was worth loving, why did they pull away the moment things started getting serious? These questions are the reason you cannot sleep at night. These questions are the reason you keep replaying every moment trying to find the mistake you made. And these questions are the reason you have been blaming yourself for something that was never in your control. But today, I am going to give you the answer to all of those questions. And when you hear it, something inside you is going to shift. Not because I am going to tell you what you want to hear, but because I am going to tell you the truth that will set you free. The person who left you has something inside them called avoidant attachment. And if you do not understand what that means, you will spend months, maybe years, trying to make sense of something that can never be made sense of within the normal rules of love. Let me explain it in the simplest possible way. There are people in this world who, when they feel deep connection coming toward them, their first instinct is not to lean in. Their first instinct is to pull back. Not because they do not want love, but because somewhere deep in their psychology, love became associated with something dangerous, something painful, something that threatened their sense of safety. When a child grows up in an environment where emotional expression was punished, or where closeness was unreliable, or where they learned that depending on others leads to disappointment, their nervous system develops a protective mechanism. That mechanism tells them, do not get too close. Do not need anyone too much. Do not let yourself fall completely, because falling completely means you can be completely destroyed. That mechanism is called the avoidant attachment system. And here is what you need to understand about the person who carries it. When everything is light and easy and surface level, they can stay, they can show up, they can appear like anyone else in the beginning stages of love. But the moment the relationship starts asking for something deeper, the moment things start requiring emotional availability, real vulnerability, genuine intimacy, that protective mechanism activates and they run. Not because they do not feel anything, but because they feel too much and they do not know how to hold it. This is why your ex could be warm one day and completely cold the next. This is why they pulled away right when you thought things were getting deeper. This is why they seemed fine after the breakup while you were falling apart. It is not because they are a bad person. It is because their nervous system is doing exactly what it was programmed to do: protect them from the perceived danger of real emotional closeness. Do you hear what I am saying to you right now? When they went cold, it had nothing to do with your value as a person. It had nothing to do with your looks, your personality, your effort, or your love. It had everything to do with a deep, unconscious fear inside them that they probably do not even fully understand themselves. The moment you accept this truth, something powerful happens. The confusion starts to dissolve. The blame you have been placing on yourself starts to lift, and you begin to see the situation for what it actually is. A person with a broken attachment system walked away from something real because their psychology could not handle what you were offering. You were offering depth. You were offering real connection. You were offering the kind of love that most people secretly crave but are terrified to accept. And their avoidance system saw that depth as a threat. This is not your failure. This is their limitation. And those two things are completely different. You did not do anything wrong. You just loved someone who was not capable of staying. Not because they are a monster, but because they are wounded in a way that makes real intimacy feel impossible for them. And the tragedy is, they will likely spend the rest of their life running from connection, never understanding why they feel so alone, even when they are in a relationship. That is their journey. That is their pain. That is their pattern. But your journey, your healing, that starts the moment you stop making their fear about your worth. You are not unworthy. You are not failing. You are not someone who does not deserve to be loved deeply. You are someone who loved fully, and the person you loved was not built to receive it. That distinction changes everything, and it is the foundation of everything we're going to build from here. Right now, at this very moment, there is a voice inside your head that keeps saying the same thing over and over again. And if you do not silence that voice, it will become the most destructive force in your life. That voice is telling you that you were not enough. It is telling you that if you had just been smarter, more patient, more attractive, more laid back, more available, less needy, less emotional, they would have stayed. It is telling you that you failed, that you messed up, that you missed something you should have seen, that if you had just been a different version of yourself, things would have worked out. This is the lie, and it is destroying you from the inside. I need you to listen to me very carefully right now, because what I am about to say might go against everything your emotions are telling you, but it is the truth, and the truth is the only thing that can break this cycle. You were not the problem. You were never the problem. The reason you feel like you were not enough is not because you actually were not enough. It is because your brain is desperately trying to find an explanation for something that does not make sense. When someone you love leaves without a clear reason, your mind creates a story to fill that gap. And the story your mind created is one where you are the failure. Because if you were the failure, then at least there is something you can fix next time. At least there is something you can control. But this story is a trap, and the longer you stay inside it, the deeper it will pull you into a darkness that has nothing to do with the truth. Here is what actually happened. You showed up as your full, authentic self. You gave love without holding back. You created space for another human being in your life in a way that required enormous emotional courage. You were vulnerable, you were open, you gave them every part of who you are, and they could not meet you there. That is not a reflection of your worth. That is a reflection of their capacity. Their ability to receive love, to stay present, to build something real, it was limited. not because of anything you did or did not do, but because of wounds inside them that were there long before you ever entered their life. You did not break them. You did not drive them away. You did not make them feel suffocated or overwhelmed. You simply loved them in a way that demanded emotional depth. And their psychology was not built to handle that depth. Now let me ask you something that will reframe everything. If your best friend came to you and said the exact same things you have been saying to yourself, I was not enough. I should have been better. I must have done something wrong. What would you tell them? Would you sit there and agree with them? Would you tell them they are right? They are a failure? They do not deserve love? Of course you would not. You would hold them. You would tell them they are worthy. You would remind them of everything that makes them special. So why are you refusing to give yourself the same grace? The story you are telling yourself about not being enough is not just wrong, it is dangerous. Because the moment you accept that story as truth, you start changing who you are to avoid feeling this pain again. You start dimming your light. You start holding back your love. You start pretending you do not need connection the way you actually do. And that is the real tragedy. Because the beautiful, deep, emotionally honest person that you are, that is your gift. That is what makes you extraordinary. But if this lie convinces you that the problem is your depth, your emotional openness, your willingness to love fully, then you will spend the rest of your life apologizing for the best parts of yourself. That is not healing. That is self-destruction disguised as growth. You are not too much. You are not too emotional. You are not too needy. You are not too intense. You are exactly the right amount of everything for someone who is capable of receiving you. And the fact that this particular person could not receive you says everything about their limitations and nothing about your value. Let this truth settle into your bones, not just as something you think, but as something you feel in the deepest part of yourself. You were not the lie they told themselves. You were the truth they were too afraid to accept. And that is their loss, not yours.